Welcome! I'm glad you're here. You're listening to Banjo Chat, where I bring in amazing banjo players and chat with them about their life, their music, their stories, their pitfalls, inspirations, and advice. So, join us on this journey into Banjo Chat. Hello, and welcome to the Banjo Chat. I'm your host, Hillary Hawk. Here we are. It's Wednesday. How you doing out there? How you holding up? We got May energy in the air. People are outside doing things. The sun is shining a bit more. It's great. And guess what? It's the season finale today. It's the season finale. We made it. I made it. You made it. We made it together. I can't tell you how excited I am to have my guest on today. I'm so excited that I actually re-recorded this whole intro because you're going to hear that I'm completely nervous in the interview and I had a hard time holding it together. So yeah, it warms up, but the magic of recording is saving me on this one. You'll hear me have a couple stumbles and nervous laughs. So, but that's life though. We all have a couple stumbles. We can't always restart, but I can this time. So I'm doing it. So, this is the season finale. What does that mean? It means that this is the last episode for a couple months. I got to do my own music. I got to play my own shows and do my own teaching. So I put all that stuff aside to do the podcast. So I got to take a couple months off and put some more time into this, and then I'll pick up again in the fall. So very special episode today. Super excited. But first I want to let you know that our custom koozies have arrived. The custom koozies with the Banjo Chat logo for your bottle or can. They're available now on the Etsy site. I'll include a link below. Or you can sign up on the Patreon at the pizza level. That's $5 a month. Patreon.com/BanjoChat. You can get a free koozie. If you already signed up, don't worry, they're coming. I gotta get that together, but they're coming. I'm excited. I got a busy summer. If you're in New York City, I'm doing a clawhammer banjo workshop at the Jalopy Theater on June 1st. Sign up now. Space is limited. I'll be at the Penn Mar Irish Festival on June 15th, the Falcon Ridge Folk Festival on June 26th and 27th, and the Shenandoah Valley Music Festival on August 30th with the Eileen Ivers Band, the Brigidines. You don't want to miss that. It's a great band. And that's it. So here we go. We're jumping into the season finale. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Here we go. Let's do it. My guest today is someone that I've been admiring for a long time. I have like a whole bunch of scribbled notes in various notebooks over the years of thoughts and questions. I've been listening to her music. It makes me smile and clap out loud spontaneously. And I'm smiling because I'm so happy for all she's accomplished and continuing to accomplish. She collaborates with Steve Martin, the Indigo Girls, as well as other notable visionaries in the music world. She's one of a kind, truly hitting the marks of virtuosity and effortlessly blending bluegrass, country, bebop, Irish, Brazilian music, bossa nova, classical. I could go on. Besides being a powerhouse, she seems to truly love music and is constantly curious about it and bringing banjo to new audiences. She's also a producer, and it's no wonder she started her own record label, the internationally distinguished Compass Records, that, in my opinion, is the best record label for cutting-edge, exceptional, charismatic music in the folk, bluegrass, and Celtic world and beyond. She also has a series of banjo lessons on the premier online learning site, ArtistWorks. And if that's not enough, she won the Banjo Player of the Year award at IBMA, the second year that it was offered. And she won a Grammy playing with Alison Krauss. I mean, come on! I've been in an absolute trance this past week, diving into her music, even more so. So I am so excited to welcome to the chat, Alison Brown.
Wow, Hillary, thank you so much for that incredible introduction. I'm blushing.
Oh, well, I'm so happy to have you on here. We've actually never met before, so this is a real treat for me. But I actually took a workshop of yours on music publishing, I think it was. It was over the pandemic, and me and my pal, banjoist Russ Carson, nerded out afterwards, after your workshop, about how informative it was and how, it was just, a truly, awesome workshop that I've never experienced before. So it was really great hearing you speak about the business. Do you remember doing that one?
Vaguely. Did that have to do with the MLC, the Mechanical Licensing Collective?
Yes,
yep.
That's what it was.
Oh, good. I'm glad you felt that I was informed. I had to do some shedding before that to make sure I was up to speed on everything. So thank you.
Well, there's a lot of people there. I was just a little cube. In the corner. But it was really inspiring and great to hear about that. Yeah. Well, I've been looking at your tour schedule, and you're touring quite a bit coming up, and I was wondering, how has it been balancing a record label with performing, and I know you have some kids too. Besides your banjos, you have some kids. So, what has that been like?
Well, it's interesting, but I find that one thing really informs the other. And whenever we're out touring, I always learn something new about the fans and something new about, other artists that are out there who are really doing great work. And so I always bring all that back. It's kind of invigorating, really. It reinvigorates what we do at Compass, because that's really why we started Compass Records, was because my now husband, then, bass player, Gary West, and I were out touring with another artist in the early 90s, and we kept hearing all this great music, and we were like, wouldn't it be great to create an artist-run label for artists? So that was the original mission statement of Compass Records. So whenever we're out touring, it's kind of like we get back to our roots of why we started the label. So it's actually a really good thing.
Oh wow, that's great. Because I noticed that you do have like a real curiosity, like the music that you're playing and everything that you're bringing into the sounds that you're making. I just was like, you actually love music, and I was like, and not everybody starts a record label like with that kind of that seed of inspiration. So that's really cool to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I was wondering, like, as a successful business person and business owner, and you also have a banjo career, I mean, usually people have one of those things. Is there something that you've noticed about your life that has benefited you from the start? They say, like, habits of successful people. For example, I'm a morning person. Despite if I'm out late drinking or playing a show, like I get up at 7:30 a.m. I can't help it. But I think it benefits me because then I get some mundane stuff done. I get some email. I get some whatever, making sets, like all that done. And I feel like that's helped me. Is there something that's like helped you that you feel like is like a habit that you've had since the beginning?
That's a really good question. I wish I were a morning person. I've never been a morning person, but I still try to get up in the morning because it is just the prettiest time of day, and that's kind of when you do business. So,
right.
I don't know. I think maybe I'm just like I've always really liked to make to-do lists. And yeah. I find since I've got so many different buckets of things going on, like if I didn't write them down, it would be impossible to remember everything I need to do because they aren't all related to each other. It's like there's like the Compass Records bucket of stuff, and then there's the ABQ stuff, and then there's projects that I'm either producing or playing that, like studio projects. So they all are kind of like different like buckets in my mind, and I think being able to write out lists of to-do stuff, that's maybe been the most helpful thing.
And then do you like cross off when you do the thing?
Oh, shoot, absolutely. Yeah.
You're like, that's
very satisfying.
And at the end of the day, you can see if you crossed everything off, you're like, yes, pat on the back.
Yeah. It never happens. I usually start one on Monday, and then on the next Monday, I'm always copying over, a dozen things that I didn't get to. But at least they're written down. So that's a big help.
I do the same thing, and I use, because I feel so bad about my list making because I just make continuous lists. I started using like the back of cereal boxes and like or like packages I'm throwing away so that I'm not constantly using paper.
That's funny. Yeah, I always save scratch paper for it. Printer misfires. Uh-huh.
Yeah, there you go. Well, now besides performing, you mentioned you're a producer. I saw a whole bunch of fabulous names on your website, just to name a few: Claire Lynch, Dale Ann Bradley, Missy Raines. And I'm wondering, do you produce your own albums?
I've co-produced my last couple of albums, but I find that when you're the artist and when you're in the weeds on the music, it's really hard to also have like the 10,000-foot view that a producer needs to have.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're the artist, having a sounding board in the control room and somebody that's watching out for the big picture stuff is really, really important.
And then are you doing that while you're recording, or is that something like after you've recorded?
What do you mean?
Like, so after you record, how you can like you can overdub some people in or have someone do a solo or some other production elements. Do you have the producer there for that moment, or are they there right from the get-go?
Yeah, well, the person who I've worked with as a co-producer on my last couple of records and who produced my records before that, at least the half a dozen or so before it's funny because sometimes if it's a band track with our band, he's playing also because he plays bass in the band. But other times when it's like on my new record, a collaboration with Sierra Hull or Steve Martin or something that he's not playing on, yeah, he's definitely in the control room because it really is helpful to have somebody who's like, yeah, I think that take was it, or let's grab another one while everybody's in the room. It's really hard to tell that stuff when you're also playing.
Yes, it's really hard. But yeah, I noticed a consistency in your albums over the year that you do have like a sound, and I was wondering if it was the same producer throughout. So if it is Gary, that's really cool because I can hear the thread. That's awesome.
Yeah, David Grisman produced my first record, Simple Pleasures, which actually we're getting ready to reissue. It's been out of the market for 15 years. It was originally came out on Vanguard, but we just got the master tapes and remixed and remastered it, and it sounds really good. Like we brought the sonics up to 21st century standards, and it was really fun revisiting that music. But David produced that record, and Mike Marshall played guitar and some fiddle and mandolin on that record. And then he produced my next record, Twilight Motel. But after that, Gary's produced or co-produced everything since. And the vision for the band is really something that we've come up with together. When we first started off, I thought it would make the most sense to have like guitar, fiddle and mandolin, bass and banjo, like more of a string band configuration. But as we started to work on the music in the studio and then playing it live, we realized piano covered a lot of the ground that guitar and fiddle and mandolin. So it was like you could take piano and drop it and bass and drums, and it's kind of like this jazz looking trio with banjo is sort of how we ended up creating the sound that we have.
Yes.
It wasn't like, we didn't think at first that would be the path, but Gary's background is more in rhythm and blues, so for him it was natural to bring in the percussion element, and then the piano just has so much harmonic possibilities to offer, and percussive possibilities too, that really ended up clicking as the foundation of the band.
Wow, I'm so glad you mentioned the piano because the piano really stood out to me, and I was wondering who the piano player is. I mean, I guess I could look that up, but I haven't looked it up yet.
Yeah, I think on the newest record, Chris Walters, who played with us for a number of years, did probably all of the piano, unless I'm forgetting somebody. And he's a great player and a great collaborator. And we've been working with Mason Embry the last couple of years, who's also an amazing player. So we've been really fortunate to have such great musicians. And for me as a banjo player, somebody with in the prison of only 5 strings, it's really interesting to see how pianists like approach harmony, because they have so many possibilities at their fingertips. All those 88 keys and strings. So that's really been an education for me. And plus, I think banjo and piano are just really naturally well suited for each other. And I think that the piano-banjo combo was something that maybe, 120 years ago we would have heard a lot. It's kind of like at the foundation of ragtime and some of the classic banjo stuff too. But it's something that wasn't really done a lot through the 1900s and well, really until now. But I think it's a great combination.
Yeah, and certainly the way that you're doing it. And I want to stop and just go back to the prison of 5 strings. I almost lost it there when you said that. The prison of 5 strings. The piano and banjo combination is one of my favorite sound combinations, and I feel like the banjo often sounds like a piano, like it can sound like a piano, and I love the interplay of those two sounds and the frequencies, and I feel like it's such an exciting sound, and I love that you've blended that into a lot of your sound. It's like, it's one of my favorite things.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I really enjoy it too. I've always, it's not what I expected to discover, but since I discovered that piano and banjo go so well together, it's like, wow, I really, enjoy coming up with music for just piano and banjo.
Yep. I mean, I made a whole album of banjo, piano, and modular synthesizer, and it's one of my favorite albums, and it's totally weird, but it has that combination, and I love it.
Very cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I hope to do more of it too, but it is for me, that's a different process than the usual bluegrass band. So this is the Banjo Chat. I'm going to get emails annoyed if I don't ask this question. What banjo are you playing? Do you have a favorite banjo that you're currently playing? And for me, what are your favorite finger picks?
Well, the banjo that I use on the road is a Spirit model. It's a signature model that Yaroslav Pruka made for me. So it's a Pruka banjo.
Ooh.
And it has custom features that we worked on together. It's got an extended fingerboard, which I've really gotten spoiled by because it's really so fun to be able to like go all the way up like to like a 2-octave D scale. It sounds
Oh my
nerdy,
gosh,
but
really?
yeah, it opens up a lot of possibilities. And so now when I don't have it, there's so many things that I've written with that in mind. I'm like, oh, I can't play that on that banjo. But my other favorite banjo is a RB3. Like I have an original 5-string master tone banjo from 1937, I think.
Wow.
And that's a great banjo. And I actually, on the newest single that Steve Martin and I have out, Bluegrass Radio, I used that banjo because it's such a great bluegrass banjo. It's a really, really great instrument. And I play that one at home a lot, but I'm always reluctant to take it on the road. So those would be my two favorites. But I've got banjarines that I pick up and pony banjos and my low banjo, my Julia Bell Deering low banjo, which I use a lot on the road. And then I've got John Hartford's original prototype for his Deering low banjo.
Wow.
Which is in the studio right now, but it's always close by. I love picking that up.
Gosh, I'd love to see any of those banjos.
Well, I'll show them to you. Come to Nashville.
Nice. I would love to see them. That's really exciting. Yeah. So with the extended fingerboard, how many frets do you have?
Oh, I should know that. I'm not sure how bad is that. So there's usually 22. So there must be like 27 frets. I'm spitballing.
And is this on the newest?
It's just a few more. It's not like that. Like if you look at a picture of the banjo, it doesn't look really super weird.
Okay.
Or anything.
Yeah.
You know, but you'll see. You can look at that banjo and you'll see what I mean. It's probably right on their website.
Well,
I don't want to mess up this recording and start Googling it while we're talking.
I know, right? I'm always like, if I start going on my phone, is the recording going to stop? I don't know. Right. But I thought I was the nerdiest banjo player, and I think you may be the nerdiest banjo player that I've talked to.
Oh, I don't know really if I can claim that distinction because there are a lot of super nerdy ones for sure.
Well, it's good to be a nerd because, nerds rule. So I'm wondering, what do you like to convey through banjo when you're on stage? Do you like to entertain? Do you prefer making albums? Do you like to give a different sense of the instrument? Do you like to channel good energy through the instrument? I guess, what I'm trying to say, when people walk away, what kind of feeling do you want them to have after hearing you? Or, what do you want to bring, to the stage, I guess is the question. Hope that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, of course, I want people at the end of the show to feel like that was time and money well spent and that they put their troubles aside and they have been uplifted in some way. But probably the overarching mission is to just share the beauty of the banjo and the possibilities that the instrument has. Because I think a lot of people, especially because of the convergence of clear channel radio and later network television at the birth of bluegrass, a lot of people think that the banjo is just that bluegrass thing. It's just what they heard on Beverly Hillbillies or Hee Haw or Bonnie and Clyde, and it's just that sound that makes you want to rob a bank or drive your car too fast. But the banjo is so much more than that, and its history is so much longer, and most people aren't aware of that. So I think that it's completely appropriate to make other music on the banjo because it's part of the banjo's DNA. Yeah. So my favorite thing at the end of the show is to have people say, oh, I didn't know I liked the banjo, but I really do. Or to have the husband or wife of the banjo player that, dragged them to the show say, oh, he or she always makes me go to these shows. And now I've found one that I really want to go to. So it's like trying to make the banjo more universally appealing to people who aren't already banjo nerds.
Yeah. No, I could totally hear that in your music. And why don't we take a listen to some? If that's all right. I chose a track from your newest album on banjo, and it's called Sweet Sixteenths, and it's with Sierra Hull on the mandolin. All right, here we go. Let's take a listen. I just don't want to stop it. Like I just could keep listening to that forever. I mean, I have listened to it a lot. It's so good. Oh man!
Thank you.
Yeah, I love the variations on this. The unexpected twists and turns. Like I literally feel like it's twists and turns. And all you need is a mandolin and a banjo. There's nothing else. How did you develop some of these variations on this tune? How did you come up with some of this?
That's a really good question. I just kind of started off at the beginning, and then I just kept following the threads of the melody, and I knew that I wanted to have different sections, like a fiddle tune, where you've got an A, B, C, and like those fiddle tunes where you've also got a D, E, and an F.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to build a tune like that, and then like leave a solo section, and find melodies that would be good to twin, or ideas that would be good to like do a call and response sort of thing on. And that one evolved over probably a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
But I knew that it would be great. I mean, I've always really loved mandolin and banjo duets ever since like Alan Mundy and Sam Bush.
Oh wow.
And Stuart Duncan and I recorded a mandolin banjo duet on our record Pre-Sequel, like that came out in the 90s or 80s. I mean, it's an old record. So I mean, my love of that goes way back, and I knew I wanted to write something like that. So I just kind of carved away on it over time, and I find like if you just listen to like the melody threads, a lot of times they'll tell you kind of where they want to go next.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes some time to hear all that.
Yeah, and you have your own style, of course. Like I never do any double time stuff like that. When you go into that double time, I love it. That's something I've been really enjoying recently, listening to your stuff. That's really fun.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Great. And why don't we contrast that one with a tune from the same album called Old Shatterhand. All right, here we go. All right, that's Old Shatterhand. Right away, that just grabs you right from the start. You got piano in there, a drum set or some sort of drum set, like a percussion, bass, flute. Is this the Alison Brown Quartet?
Yes, this is the band, and that was Chris Walters playing piano, and Jordan Perlson on drums, and John Ragusa on the flute.
Oh man, it's so great! What a great band, and I'd love to hear you guys live sometime. I gotta catch a show, but the banjo sounds great blended into a style like this. You make it fit. You're such a great player.
Oh, thanks.
It's just great music, and I mean the chords are flying by. I don't even understand how you wrote this. It sounds like a jazz standard to me. How did you come up with this one? Did you have a concept for this?
Well, believe it or not, I was trying to write a tune that would be like a good one to work on single string soloing. And so the tune, like in my mind, was going to be called Bird on a Wire. But then when we started to play it, it's so hard. First of all, it's too fast to really use as a tune to shed soloing ideas. It just, the changes go by so fast that it was a challenge for everybody when we recorded this. And so that's why it's called Old Shatterhand, because it really does. It's kind of a knuckle buster at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was wondering if you're doing mostly like single string on these tunes and in Sweet Sixteenths as well. Are you doing like a single string style?
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like
it is
to
a lot of single string stuff, but I find that instead of doing thumb, index, a lot of times I'm doing 2 strings, but I'm using 3 fingers to do it. Okay. So I think that's, I found that to be more fluid, at least for me, than just doing the thumb index thing. And so...
Yeah, that's really great.
So, and the head of Old Shatterhand has a lot of roll pattern. There's some really weird and uncomfortable kind of right hand moves that you need to make to execute the melody. The B section's not so bad, but yeah, I'm sure there's pieces of single string in there too to get all that together. But that one earned its title for sure.
So are you bringing the ring finger across? Are you doing Are you doing middle finger? No ring finger. You're doing middle finger.
I think one of the tricks on this one is a lot of index finger on the first string.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was part of the trickery, and then I'm sure there's a lot of middle fingers reaching up to second string. I haven't played the head in a while, but I know that it's one of those that you kind of have to believe to do it. Like you have to believe your fingers will go there for it to work.
Well, I wish that's all it would take. I mean, I like that idea of writing a tune as an exercise for soloing. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
To practice soloing. Yeah,
it's a good idea. It didn't work in this case, but it is a good idea.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, great. I have one final question for you here. What do you find is hard to do when you get on stage or when you're about to perform? Not even on stage, like when you're in a jam, and is it something like you have to launch into a song and you're not warmed up yet? What do you find is hard for you, and have you had to overcome anything on stage, like any kind of fear or get over?
Oh, sure. I mean, of course. I mean, I think it's natural for all of us to be really nervous when, you make that transition from sitting in your room with nobody listening to being on stage with everybody just like listening to you. Yeah. It's nerve-wracking. I remember the first banjo fiddle contest that I played in, I felt like my knees were actually like shaking, and I must have been 12 or 13 years old. So it doesn't have to do with your age or anything. It's just natural because you're not used to it. And then over time, you kind of have made every possible mistake in every possible public situation. And then you get a little bit more relaxed because you've kind of been there, done that. You have the experience of having made that, that fail. Yeah. And you know how you got out of it. And so you get a little bit more relaxed. But it still is nerve-wracking. And I think that you need to get the muscle memory to get to that place, and like and then the experience of like how you cope with a fail in a public situation. But everybody should know that it's nerve-wracking for everybody, and I think that practicing something over and over, like if you can do it 15 times perfectly in your room, then you probably are ready to try it with other people. But you need to give yourself permission to fail too, because it's going to happen, and you can't beat yourself up too much. It's just part of the process. And generally, the people around you will be, forgiving's not really quite the word, but they'll be forgiving, but they'll be supportive too. Yeah. Because we've all been there, we've all done that. So don't let your fear of failure get in the way of getting in the circle and playing with other people, because that's the whole point of this whole thing. Yeah. The banjo is just a conduit for connecting you with other people. And if all you ever do is play 3 chords, and you can play This Land Is Your Land with other people, then you've achieved like the paramount mission, in my opinion. Aww. Which is connecting with other people. So don't be afraid to fail. I mean, get it up to speed in your room, but know that when you get in that other situation, it's going to feel different, and you're probably going to screw up, and that's okay. Yeah. That's part of the process.
Yeah, I like that as like a foundation to have that in your mind, like you do. That's great for whatever you're doing. Knowing that that's paramount. You have to fail before you fly. So, yeah.
Absolutely, and we all do. It's like at every stage, like whether you're just beginning or whether you're, a quote unquote professional musician playing professionally. Like we all screw up. So don't beat yourself up. Yeah. Take it. It's a part of the learning curve.
Yeah, it totally is. Well, great. It's so great to chat with you on here. I have your website as AlisonBrown.com, AlisonBrown.bandcamp.com. Go and buy some music from Alison Brown, the newest album on banjo. I do want to mention that there is a track on your album with Steve Martin, and it's called Foggy Mountain.
It's called Foggy Morning Breaking.
Thank you.
And it's very confusing. And that's John Hartford's handiwork, because that's a lyric from a song he wrote called Down on the Levee. He wrote about a foggy morning breaking, and I always thought that would be a perfect title for a banjo tune, because I know, of course, he's riffing off Foggy Mountain Breakdown, and it confuses everybody, so don't feel bad. I say it wrong half the time.
It's like the words can't come out of my mouth right because I'm just trying to say Foggy Mountain Breakdown. Foggy Morning Breaking. I still can't say it. And then also you mentioned the single Bluegrass Radio. It's a hilarious single. I really enjoyed listening to that. I was laughing. It's a kind of a comedy. It's really good. With Steve Martin singing, and I'm not sure who else is singing on that, but it's really fun.
It's Sam Bush and Trey Hensley are singing harmony.
Okay, awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, anything else that you want to add before we sign off here?
Well, gee, I don't know. This has been a really great interview. I would just like to say for anybody who is interested in like kind of peering into my process for thinking about the banjo, my Artist Works class is up. And, Artist Works runs specials all the time, so you can probably find a free 30-day trial. But I really gave a lot of thought to how you get into playing the banjo, because when I picked up the instrument, it wasn't easy for me at first. I had been like playing fingerstyle guitar for a couple of years, and I was really used to like the feel of my fingers on the strings. And putting picks on, and you asked what kind of picks do I use, and I didn't answer. I use 1941 showcase picks and a blue chip thumb pick. But putting picks on for the first time, that just like it was like a complete impediment for me, and really hard. I couldn't get them like tight enough. I couldn't get them small enough. I couldn't get them like to do my bidding, and it's still you can ask a lot of professional players, but I talked to Bela about this, and it's like if we lose our picks, it's just a nightmare. Like breaking in new picks is like worse than breaking in a new pair of high heels. It's a bit of trauma. So in my school, I started people off without the picks on because I just want people to like be able to play a few chords, learn the alternating roll pattern, which is basically like what Earl uses on Cripple Creek. But that's how I started, like that Travis style, like thumb, index, thumb, middle kind of pattern, and just feel the instrument before you stick the metal picks on. And then we go like, once you get some familiarity with the feel of the instrument and get a few tunes under your belt, then add the picks. Like you've kind of gone part of the way down the road. You're not starting out with this really hard obstacle on your right hand. Yeah. So anyway, for anyone who's interested in kind of that approach, or then obviously it goes up through advanced stuff too, check it out.
Yes.
Artistworks.com.
That's great, and great tip right there, just like a preview of what you can find in the Artist Works class. I have so many questions about picks, but I will let you go because, yes, I have lots of pick thoughts. We'll see you around and hopefully catch you on tour. I know you're coming to New York, and thank you so much for being on the chat.
You bet. Thanks for having me. It's been great talking to you. I'm going to search out your piano banjo synthesizer project.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening. If you want to send us any thoughts or questions, you can email us at banjochatpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram @banjochat. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye. Woo! That's it, baby. That's season 2. We'll see you in a couple months. And just want to let you know that all these episodes are mastered, recorded, and edited by myself with special research help from Karen Michelanis. If you'd like to support the Banjo Chat podcast, check out our new Patreon page at patreon.com/banjochat. Also, give us a like, a review, and subscribe, and that'll help boost it along so we can keep making these for you. Thanks.